All right, we bring in Mike Silver, host of Open Mic on the Volume, longtime, well-sourced, hyper-connected NFL writer. So, Mike, I spent 5 hours one night with Sean Payton a couple of weeks ago. And you're a real reporter. I occasionally have relationships, but I'm not in the story breaking business. It's what you do and do it very, very well. But we sat down and, Sean and I talked about everything. The Russell Wilson piece, the owner piece, the Mahomes Herbert 4 times a year piece, and the Harbaugh piece. And in our relationships with coaches, I always feel like a responsibility to tell the audience as much as I can, and I will here. Not everything. There are some things I want to protect my relationship with Sean. I don't want to get into the whizzing match between Ian Rappaport and Adam Schefter, but I felt when I had dinner with Sean very strongly that he was the coach, that he knew there were obstacles, and I felt, this is my takeaway, that you were going to have to pay for Sean because this job is not easy. There's some good stuff. It's not a rebuild, but the Russell Wilson thing is real. Is that how you view this situation, that the price point? I mean, that's why I talked to Sean Monday after my show. I thought he was a Fox employee. I think this thing came down to Denver making a financial commitment to Sean, letting him know, hey, we know it's not easy. We're going to take the pay scale to a different level. Is that your interpretation?
Well, I think there's a couple of things. First of all, it's a leap of faith on both sides. For whoever was going to take that job, you've got at least a year with Russell Wilson, and you pray it doesn't look like it did this last year, possibly 2 years, because it really does impact your cap. You've lost a lot of draft capital because of that trade as well. And you are in that division with Mahomes and Herbert, and, that's kind of something that would give a candidate with options pause, even possibly DeMeco Ryans. He may have had his other reasons for wanting Houston, or he may have had the choice made for him and just read the tea leaves. But that was one thing. If you're looking to hire Sean Payton, the price tag is high. You have to give up draft capital. That's especially sensitive if you're the Broncos, because you just gave up all that draft capital for Russell. You got the one back for Chubb. You're giving that away now. If you're the Texans, you could say, we've got draft capital. We got all that Deshaun Watson loot. But you are necessarily, weakening yourself. So you're giving up draft capital. You're giving up money. Now, that was a strength of the Broncos' job. They do have lots of money. They do have the Russell issue. George Payton is a very, very well-liked GM. I think if Sean was going to come in somewhere and turn the GM into essentially a director of player personnel, George is someone that you could see that relationship working out, at least in the short term. He's super well-liked. He goes with the flow. But my read on the Broncos from afar is that they knew that Sean was expensive, both in terms of draft capital and money. And they knew that he came in with a little swag. He wasn't kissing the ring of the Walmart and, oh, wow, I just want to, he's basically saying, you should hire me because I'm awesome. So you also had to go down parallel paths before you decided whether you were going to do that. And it just seemed to me that at least the public-facing side of it, remember, these are the richest people, there are, and they're not used to really being criticized like, say, NFL owners normally get criticized. And people are looking at it going, well, you asked Harbaugh. He said no. You flew off to see him again. He still said no. Dan Quinn dropped out. And DeMeco Ryans chose the Texans over you. So whether that's an accurate assessment because I think there were a lot of moving parts. Also, by the way, someone leaked that David Shaw was the favorite. So now it really looks like 4 different people that you either couldn't get or didn't want. And now you're like, well, how are we going to not look like these, bumbling billionaires? What are we going to do? Let's swing big, baby, because money is a strength. And, them paying Sean Payton, whatever they paid Sean Payton, is like you and I, exchanging a burger, basically.
Well, and here's the thing. There are parts of the job that are really good. Like in the NFL, you've got a talented quarterback, a starting left tackle, pretty good perimeter weapons, a young running back who was hurt but people really like.
Yeah.
Some of the best corners in the sport. And you've got some defensive personnel that can move around. It's a big brand. And you can, as you know, you can get draft capital pretty quickly, move people here or there. You can, but I said this in my 10-minute ramble before you. If this was an easy job, Sean would have taken it a month ago or 3 weeks ago. I think the Russell piece scares people.
But I also think there's a part of Sean, so I used this when the 49ers traded for Christian McCaffrey. I had to write a column immediately for the Chronicle, and I led with something to the effect of this was a move based on or born of arrogance. And I say that lovingly, by the way, as a fellow arrogant.
Well, that was a great column. I read that. It was a great column.
But I mean, I know what it's like. I believe in my abilities, probably to a ridiculous degree at times. And if you're Kyle Shanahan, you're like, oh man, I know it costs a lot, but if I get Christian McCaffrey and I put him in my offense and it's going to be insane. So I think you want your coach to have that streak. So look, I've known Sean Payton since the early days and I love him. And one reason I do is because he believes that Sean Payton is really, really good at this. So in a way, I think you're like, yeah, I could do that. And by the way, there might be more attractiveness because everyone thinks it's a bad job and everyone thinks Russell can't be salvaged. And if you struggle at first, people might give you a little bit of a little bit of leeway there. But if you don't and you come in and, make the playoffs next year, people are going to go, Sean Payton, man, look what he did. And Doug Peterson just kind of did it. He had an easy division, but Sean Payton is one of the absolute best in the world at what he does, and he knows it. And his knowledge of that is part of what makes him who he is, and that's what you're paying for.
So one of the things that is a reality, and I've pushed against, and maybe because I haven't been offered this level of money, but sometimes you just get offered money you can't say no to.
Yeah.
And we've seen coaches take jobs, and I've seen actors do movies. I'm like, this is absurd. What are you? And then you see the price tag, and you're like, okay, I get it. I understand it. So I believe that what the Broncos paid Sean Payton, and this is why Harbaugh came in again, I think Sean liked working in television and knew next year you've got 2 great college quarterbacks who are both guys that can start. I think in the end, and it won't come out maybe for a while, could this just have been, $25 million a year? I'll figure it out, right?
I mean, there's always a number for sure. I mean, I don't know exactly how it played out again, because we saw the public facing part of it, and the new owners were looking like amateurs. They have it's a less attractive job in some ways, along with the fact that it gets even less attractive if you have to give up a 1 and a 2 when you're already strapped to hire this specific person. What is their strength that they could offer? we are so rich that when
That's right.
you hear the numbers like that, what we hear is, yeah, I'll take fries with that. Go back to my burger analogy. I mean, it's
Right.
just not the way that, a normal human would think of it. Now, we saw Tepper do that in North Carolina, and that ruffled the feathers of the billionaires club he was joining, whatever. But I think the problem is that he did it with Matt Rule, who it turned out was not a guy who could come into the NFL, snap his fingers, and make it awesome. But Sean Payton's as close to that as what we have. He's as close to, you could put him in an NFL context and have a very strong belief that he's going to succeed. John Gruden kind of had that sheen to him, didn't work out. Emails were released, yada, yada, yada. He's not working. But John Gruden had done it long before. Sean Payton just got done with the Saints. He knows the league. He's been really good at it. And again, he's got the belief, that self-faith, whatever we want to call it. It depends. Like when I'm writing an article, I'm like, am I being nice? Do I like the guy? He's really got a strong sense of self. And if I'm like, that guy's been really kind of annoying to me, yeah, he's an egomaniac, but it's the same thing. And, Sean Payton has a strong sense of self. He believes in Sean Payton. Yeah, pay him and give him a challenge. Because I'd rather pay a guy I think is very, very proven in doing this specific thing than a guy who, and I like Matt Rule, but he did it at Temple and Baylor. Sean Payton did it at the Saints, coming off a horrible disaster.
I will say this: years ago, Tony Romo, I heard this story about Tony Romo and Jerry Jones like 20 years ago or whenever it was, 15 years ago, that they were negotiating. And Tony Romo said, listen, I'm going to make you overpay for me because then I know you're committed to me. And I think that was Sean Payton's, one of his really strong hands. Yeah, we're going to reset the market because people as rich as you, I'm a rounding error if I don't work.
Yeah.
So I want it to sting if you got to write a $125 million check.
Yeah.
At least your accountant will call and go, reconsider. So
Well, I mean, that's why Jed York, to his credit, after Harbaugh's gone, then Tom Sula one and done, Chip Kelly one and done, when he finally settled on Kyle, was like, I'm giving him and Lynch 6-year deals, which is way high for first timers, because I'm just making a statement to them and to everyone. We're done with this one and done thing. By the way, Jerry, here's the brilliance of Jerry Jones, or some people would say it's not brilliant. I thought it was. After T.O. came to the Cowboys and the infamous push-up or, sit-ups and the next question and all that, but that dispute in Philly was you're not paying me what I'm worth. That's what fueled T.O.'s, drama. And Jerry Jones is like, I'm going to get his money right, and I'm going to get the best out of this guy, and I'm going to show him that his money's right. And in essence, I'll overpay because I think his psyche will change so much. This particular guy, and Jerry overpaid for the stadium because he was trying to make a statement to the world. He thought the stadium would become an event in and of itself, and if it sounded even more expensive, that was a win, and practice facility too. So, and those of us who don't have billions to make statements with, can only theorize about these things. But I do agree with you. I think you show Sean something, and you're betting on a guy who thinks that he's one of the few people, if not the only person, who could actually fix it. And I get it. That's cool.
Mike Silver, great stuff, buddy. Good seeing you. I appreciate you stopping by.
Great seeing you. I'll see you in person very soon.